All right, well, I just want to talk about some of the interesting things that happened during Game 5. Also, just before Game 5, there was a Lil Wayne emergency plane landing in Omaha, Nebraska that actually ties in to, once again, the royalty theme and also the NBA Finals in Game 5 and a ton of other stuff. So, the last video I put out was about will the Warriors win Game 5? There was a lot of things showing me June 13th as a date, and the Warriors actually didn't win. But it's still coded. Though, like I said, I don't care who wins anymore. Once you can see it and you know that it's rigged and it's all scripted by the same numbers, if you go and watch this video, all of the numbers that I talked about actually came up in the game. They just came up in reverse of the way that I was thinking it, you know? And the whole point of all of this is to figure out in what way the numbers are being used. It would be amazing to figure out who wins every single time, but there's a lot of factors involved. But they continually use these same numbers over and over. June 13th, though, was a significant day to the English Civil War. It was the day that King Charles I got married to his wife. It also happened to be on the 165th day of the year. His wife was born 165 days later. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I'll get to eventually, but it was definitely connected to the English Civil War. And the reason that I mention this is because I was talking about the 165, but there's also on the second day of the Republican National Convention that just so happens to be held in Quicken Loans Arena where the Cavaliers play. Cavaliers in the English Civil War were followers of King Charles. But anyway, the second day of that will be on July 9th, which can be written as 197. It also is the day that leaves 165 days in the year. And I'm just going to show this one more time here. If you write out LeBron equals 197 in Gematria. Prince also equals 197. We had the death of Prince. Prince died on the 112th day. It was also Queen Elizabeth's 90th birthday. If you write out Queen Elizabeth II, it equals 168. If you write out Cleveland Cavaliers, it equals 168. But anyway, so LeBron equals 197, Prince equals 197. If Queen Elizabeth dies, her son Prince Charles will become the new King of England, King Charles III. Charles in Gematria equals 207. But if you write out 207, it also equals 197. So anyway, you get the point. I'm going to go back and talk about this Game 5. One of the very first things that, right when the game started, the announcers mentioned something which actually made me think that the Cavs might lose because they told us that the Cavs were going to wear their black sleeve jerseys. And if you remember, clear back in November, actually November 4th, Cleveland wore these jerseys and LeBron got mad and ripped the sleeves off. They did, however, come back and beat the Knicks on that day, but there's a whole bunch of stuff to it. I've been following this 923 theme ever since Pope Francis's, or even before, but Pope Francis's trip to the United States was all about 923. He came to the United States on his 923rd day as Pope. He went to the White House at 923 on 923. He's the 266th Pope. That's even the 266th day of the year. LeBron James in Jewish Gematria just so happens to equal 923. I've never seen anybody else's name add up to 923, by the way. I'm sure there's other ones, but as I've looked and typed in name after name after name, LeBron James has got to be the only person that has equaled 923 that I've came across. But LeBron James was in the movie Trainwreck, where in the beginning of the movie, Amy Schumer's character is 9 years old. The rest of the movie takes place 23 years later. Last year in Philadelphia, we had a train wreck that happened at 9:23 p.m. Pope Francis in Gematria equals 122. I'm not even going to type it out. Pope Francis equals 122. Trainwreck equals 122. Golden State equals 122. Kansas City equals 122. Remember, Kansas City Royals beat the New York Mets in the World Series last year. If you write out New York Mets equals 168, just like Cleveland Cavaliers, just like Queen Elizabeth II. They even play in Queens. There was a whole bunch of royal theme in this World Series as well. But anyway, Pope Francis began his trip to the United States on 9/19, which is the 262nd day of the year, 9/19. And then he came to America on 9/22, his 923rd day as Pope. But in the World Series, the power went out. If you recall, in Game 1, the power went out at 9:19, and then it came back on at 9:23 p.m. And there's a whole lot more to all of that, you know. Obama even went to Cuba exactly 26 weeks, 2 days later, after Pope Francis went to Cuba. You know, the 262, Clinton in Gematria equals 262. She clinched the nomination 262 days after this. There's a whole bunch of stuff to it. But I noticed that LeBron James played the Philadelphia 76ers on none other than 11/2, a lot like 112. That's even the day that The Simpsons killed Prince. And there was a moon theme. They also killed George Clooney, and they also killed Neil Armstrong, the first guy on the moon. Prince died on the night of a full moon. There's a whole bunch of 112 that I've mentioned in previous videos. If you don't understand what I'm saying, please go back and check out my other videos. There's a ton of information. I try to re-explain it, that's why these videos are so long. But please check out my other videos, and you will start to see the buildup of what I am talking about and why I am talking about this. So anyway, moral of the story, LeBron James shoots 9 of 19 the day after the World Series ends on 11/2, and then the very next game he shoots 9 of 23 against the Knicks. Pope Francis, when he came to the United States, he began his trip in Washington, D.C., and then he also visited New York and also Philadelphia. Philadelphia, even originally where the Warriors are from. Philadelphia comes from the book of Revelation. Philadelphia also where the Fresh Prince is from. I mean, believe it or not, West Philadelphia. Born and raised, right? West Philadelphia, 168. So, I mean, I've been following this game for a while. I went through and I looked at all the 9/23 stuff. Last year, Steph Curry shot 9 of 23 for the first time in his career against the Chicago Bulls. It was actually the last time that they lost a home game, right? They beat the Bulls record this year, but Steph Curry shot 9 of 23 the last time they lost at home to the Bulls. Klay Thompson also shot 9 of 23 for the first time ever against the Bulls last season on a different game. But this year I noticed that LeBron James shot 9 of 23 and also Kyrie Irving shot 9 of 23. And I've been trying to figure out if 9/23 is good for the Cavs or if it was only good for the Warriors because they're connected to Philadelphia. But moral of the story, you know, this game, they referred to it in the very beginning of Game 5. This was the game where he shot 9 of 23 and then ripped his sleeves, and then they wear the same jerseys in Game 5. You know, we even had the death of Sean Rooks just the other day as well. Sean Rooks was the assistant coach of the 76ers, and then he died the same day he had an interview with the Knicks. Anyway, you know, this game was also on 11/4. LeBron James in simple gematria equals 114, a lot like 11/4. It also made the Cavaliers record 4-1, which is interesting to Game 5. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving both scored 41 points. If you write out 41, it equals 118 and 46. The Cavs are in their 46th season right now. Sacrifice equals 46. We had the 46 modern era Super Bowl this year. I mean, there's so much more I could talk about. 46 is even really connected to Chicago, and the Super Bowl connected to the 85 Bears and the X theme and whatnot. But also I wanted to point out black sleeve jersey in gematria equals 66 the small way. LeBron equals 66. Charles equals 66. Last year, the movie Trainwreck came out 66 days after the Philadelphia Trainwreck. Also, black sleeve jersey, the big way, equals 183. If you watch my previous videos, I mentioned how 183 seems to be significant because it's in regards to this 219 that I've noticed that's super connected to Pope Francis, also Queen Elizabeth. Also, if you write out back-to-back championships, it equals 219. But anyway, 8/7, August 7th, is the 219th day. If you go from Queen Elizabeth's 64th anniversary to August 7th, it's a span of 183 days. And if you go from August 7th to what will be her 65th anniversary, it's also a span of 183 days. I haven't seen this number come up very much, but a pretty interesting number. I've been looking out for it. You know, the word Prince even equals 65. It'll be her 65th anniversary. The 13th prime number is also 41, so this game made the Cavs 4-1. LeBron and Irving both score 41. There was some 13 tributes in this game as well. We had number 13, Tristan Thompson. He gets to the line when the Cavs have 13 points. Of course, he misses both free throws, keeping the game on 13 points. But he was even fouled by number 31, the reflection of 13. And then they reviewed it, and it was on 13 forever. LeBron's in his 13th season. LeBron James is even known as King James. King James died, the original King James, died on the 87th day of the year in 1625. But the King James Bible supposedly came out on 5/2/1611, so he died in the 13th year of the King James Bible even. Anyway, the number 41 also equals 118, just like the word death. But I've also mentioned how the Warriors defeated the Cavs by 34 points on January 18th, 118. It was also 34 Cavs games after LeBron ripped his sleeves and shot 9 of 23. Later on, I mentioned how it's connected to the Civil War. I've been following the English Civil War, also the American Civil War, all kinds of stuff. But 34, if you write out Civil War, it equals 34. Lincoln equals 34. He became the president on 3/4, born on the 43rd day of the year, died 4 years, 3 days after the beginning of the Civil War. There is so many 34 parallels, even in regards to Moses. You know, Moses freed the slaves. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. It's all about 34 and 43. Why they chose them numbers, I'm not sure, but it's a definite connection to all of the slavery, Civil War type themes. I also thought it was interesting that the English Civil War came to an end after the Battle of Worcester. Worcester in Jewish Gematria equals 1313. So just kind of interesting, there was some 13 tributes. And at the end of the English Civil War, King Charles II was banished in the year 1651, and the Cavs have been surrounded by 51 this year. King Charles I was beheaded in the year 1649. Warriors equals 49. Revelation equals 49. Anyway, if you go from the day that LeBron ripped his sleeves, November 4th, to June 13th, Game 5, a span of 222 days, also 7 months, 9 days. It's just funny, because in the last video about Game 5, I talked about how I think Anderson Varejao is going to do something significant in the game. He really didn't, but the reason why was because of this 222, and the Warriors picked him up on 222. The Blazers had dropped him. Then Varejao started wearing number 18 for the Warriors. 18 days later, they played the Blazers again, which was 2 months and 22 days before the finals. A whole bunch more to it. But, like I said, check out my previous videos. Also, 7 months, 9 days is just interesting. Irving equals 79. If you write out LeBron's full name, it equals 79. Champion equals 79, but also murder. Pope Francis even turned 79 years old, 168 days before the beginning of the NBA Finals. Also, in regards to the 41 stuff, Golden State equals 41, Kobe Bryant equals 41. The word king also equals 41. In this game, the first tie of the game also came at 22 points. Like I said in the beginning, I guess, the 165th day of the year. If you write out 22, it equals 165. King Charles I, real name was Charles Stewart, that equals 165. Basketball equals 22. King Charles I was coronated on 2/2. He married his wife on June 13th. Her birthday was 165 days after June 13th. The interesting thing in regards to the ties to Prince is that I had put a video up about the death of Prince, and just minutes later, YouTube gave an old video of mine about 22 Jump Street a copyright strike, which makes absolutely no sense. The video had been up since November 25th of 2014. I don't even show any clips of the movie in the video, just pictures. It doesn't really make that much sense. But anyway, I figured out they were showing me this 165 from that. They even gave it a copyright strike 165 days after my birthday. And somehow I put the video out 165 days after the movie came out. The movie came out on June 13th. So it's kind of weird. That was when King Charles I got married, and then I put the video out on his wife's birthday 165 days later, having no idea that I did that, you know? Anyway, Oakland, where the Warriors play, also Oracle Arena here, also equals 22 in Gematria. And I saw on Zachary K. Hubbard's blog, someone in the comments had talked about the 41 in regards to Dirk Nowitzki here, who also wore number 41. The Dallas Mavericks also beat the Miami Heat in the finals in 2011 when LeBron James was on the team. But he was born on June 19th, which just so happens to be when Game 7 would be played, if there is a Game 7. It's also the birthday of the original King James, like the King James Bible guy. And, you know, being in Dallas also kind of stuck out to me for the fact that's where, you know, JFK was assassinated. We've talked a lot about Obama being assassinated and the parallels to Abe Lincoln. JFK had all them parallels to Abe Lincoln. But also we just had the airport shooting or whatever, the guy with the throwing rocks at his girlfriend's car at Dallas Love Airport. If you go back, clear back to last year in the 2015 NBA All-Star Week, I talked about how they were doing a huge love theme, and the finals were connected to Valentine's Day. The Warriors won the Game 6, or they won the finals 122 days after Valentine's Day. Golden State equals 122. But anyway, Dallas is the Dallas Mavericks, right? Of course you think of Top Gun and whatnot. For some reason I didn't go look Top Gun up. But because the first thing I thought of in regards to Mavericks was Obama going to Omaha, Nebraska just after his State of the Union address this year. But I'll get into that in a second. Anyway, Mavericks equals 101 and also 38 the small way. Philadelphia equals 101 and 65 the small way. You know, Tom Hanks even equals 101 in the movie Philadelphia and whatnot. But in regards to Prince equals 38 and 65. So Prince equals Mavericks, Prince equals Philadelphia. Game 5 was even LeBron's 38th finals game. Also, Andrew Bogut got hurt last night. Now I see that he's not going to play, or his season's over with and whatnot. Bogut in Gematria equals 65, just like Prince. Draymond Green was suspended after he had played 64 straight games, so the game that he was suspended on would have been his 65th straight game. I mean, give me a break. Andrew Bogut, his full name, equals 49 in Gematria, just like Warriors, just like Revelation, just like Dallas. You know, and they do this all the time. If you look through the players, you know, Andrew Bogut equals 49, Clay equals 49, Green equals 49, just like the team they play for. Interesting too, Bogut was drafted by Milwaukee just like Dirk Nowitzki. And I had just before Game 5, I had made a post about, or maybe it was during Game 5, I made a post about Lil Wayne having an emergency landing, and he had to land in Omaha, but he was leaving Milwaukee and he was going to California, almost like he didn't make it to California. So I thought maybe it might be a bad sign for the Warriors. I'm just going to show that post really quick. But the reason that it ties into Obama, like I said, he went to Omaha and also to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, right after his State of the Union address, and he gave a speech at Baxter Arena where the Omaha Mavericks play. But anyway, let's look at this Lil Wayne here. So, I mean, instantly when you think of the emergency jet landing, you think of the death of Prince, how Prince also had the emergency jet landing, just days before his death and whatnot. This has actually happened to Lil Wayne before, but it's still just interesting with the recent death of Prince, and then we get a story like this. Anyway, in Gematria, Lil Wayne equals 38, just like Omaha, just like Minnesota, just like Prince, just like Death, and there was a ton more 38s. The Chanhausen or whatever, where Prince lived, equals 38. Lots and lots of 38 around Prince's death, and Prince just so happens to equal 38. What are the odds Lil Wayne lands in the same way? Lil Wayne 38, Omaha 38. Notice that he's 33 years old as well. I mean, just a number that's usually often seen around sacrifice. So it would be fitting if he died, but I think it's just maybe a ploy, just to get you to remember the death of Prince. Also, Lil Wayne the Big Way equals 101, just like Philadelphia. He also turned 33 the same day that Pope Francis was in Philadelphia. Pope Francis's last day in Philadelphia. Later that night was the fourth blood moon of the Tetrad. Prince's death was all about the blood moon. Even moon equals 57. Prince died at the age of 57 on the night of a full moon. But also interesting, Lil Wayne is from New Orleans. We've had a whole bunch of deaths in sports recently with New Orleans. Even Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, right? Also that, whatever his name was, something Childs, Harvey or something Childs. Also Bryce DeJean Jones, the New Orleans Pelicans player. New Orleans even connects back to Paris and whatnot, or France. The ISIS attacking Paris and whatnot. But I mean, how fitting. Lil Wayne's real name, Dwayne Carter Jr., 165. So he has to emergency land on the 165th day of the year. I looked up his discography. This was the last album that he put out, called No Ceilings 2. No Ceilings 2 in Gematria also equals 165. If you look at the track list, it even has a remake of Back to Back by Drake, right? I've been talking about this as well. There's a huge back-to-back theme. Back to Back equals 69 in Gematria. Cleveland Cavaliers equals 69 in Gematria. There's been a whole bunch of deaths around 69. Even David Bowie. Think about the moon theme with David Bowie. In November this year, it will also be the 69th anniversary of Israel being recognized. They were recognized by something called Partition Plan. Partition Plan equals 165 in Gematria. Philadelphia just turned 333 years old on the first day of the NBA season. Israel was recognized on the 333rd day of the year by a 33-member vote. But anyway, this track also 3 minutes 11. I never noticed that before. Maybe only on this remix it's 3:11. But I mentioned a whole bunch of 3:11 and 1:13 in the last video that I made. I'm not going to go back and mention all of it. Just please go back and watch my previous video. I know they're long, but seriously, I mentioned it so many times. What's even more messed up, so Lil Wayne has to emergency land in Omaha, but he's also from Louisiana. After Barack Obama gives his last State of the Union, the next day he goes to Omaha, then Baton Rouge, Louisiana. right? Them two cities, kind of odd. Baton Rouge, Louisiana equals 219, just like back-to-back championships. Louisiana just so happens to equal 101, just like Philadelphia. If you go from the day that Obama was in Omaha to June 13th, a span of 152 days, Pennsylvania equals 152, Easter Sunday 152, 79 equals 152. If you watch my Merle Haggard death video, there was a whole bunch of 79, and I talked a lot about this Easter connection. Pope Francis is even 79 years old. I even talked about how Easter Sunday was on the 87th day of the year this year, also the same day that King James died. 8/7, the 219th day, Easter, blah, blah, blah. So Obama goes to Baton Rouge the very next day on 1/14, a lot like LeBron James. But if you go to that day to June 13th, a span of 151 days, right, the 1551 mirrors and whatnot, the American Civil War even came to an end 151 years ago on May 9th. So May 9th was the 151st anniversary of the Civil War coming to an end. June 13th was also the day, it was the last day that Donald Trump was 69 years old. He's even 15 years, 51 days older than Obama. Queen Victoria, who was the previous longest reigning British/English monarch of all time or whatever, she died 51 years and 15 days before Queen Elizabeth became the queen. Queen Elizabeth is now the longest reigning monarch and whatnot. She even became it on 9/9, which actually I've mentioned has a connection to these 51s and 151 and the assassination of presidents and whatnot. Pope Francis even turned 15 years old in 1951. Philadelphia equals 101 and 65. 65 years ago was 1951. 101 years ago was 1915. And like I said, there was a whole bunch of Coldplay. The reason Coldplay, Obama was on a track called Kaleidoscope with Coldplay that was 1:51 long. Coldplay played the Super Bowl half and whatnot. And it was a clip of Obama singing Amazing Grace at Clementa Pinckney's funeral that was 9 days after 9 people were shot. 9 months and 9 days later was even 4/4, which was the day that the first president to die in office died, the 9th president. If Obama dies in office, he'll be the 9th president to die in office. Even on this article here, just kind of funny, they showed the 293 shares. A lot like, the 923 and whatnot. Maybe not that interesting. But anyway, when I think of Lil Wayne, I think of the Cash Money Millionaires and Hot Boys. And look at the Gematria. They both equal 104. Cash Money Millionaires even equals 239. We're in the 239th year of the United States. The 104, I mentioned a ton in the last couple videos. Even the 219 in regards to back-to-back championships and whatnot for the Warriors. The Warriors scored 104 points 104 days after losing to the Blazers on that day. So much more, just like I said, you have to see the previous videos. Anyway, this flight, like I said, he left from Milwaukee and he had to emergency land in Omaha. Almost like he wasn't going to get to California, almost like the Warriors were going to lose. Also, the Bucks were the team who beat the Warriors for the first time this season. The Warriors were chasing the 33-game win streak of the Los Angeles Lakers from 44 years ago when Jerry West, who equals 44, and wore number 44, played for the team. That team also, their streak was broken by the Milwaukee Bucks. California and Gematria also 219, just like back-to-back championships. Whole bunch of other stuff. Anyway, so Obama goes to Omaha. He gives a speech at Baxter Arena. I even recorded it on my TV. I'm pretty sure I made a video on it. And he did the whole wiping his sweat with the V sign again. He did the V thing. He did it just the other day when he talked about Orlando. He did it during his State of the Union. But whatever. Baxter Arena equals 109. Omaha, Nebraska, 109. They also made sure to let us know he came on Air Force One. They mentioned it multiple times. Air Force One equals 109. It also just so happened to be the same day that the big Powerball went out in Chino Hills. Chino Hills 109. Winning Powerball ticket 109. The back-to-back theme that I've mentioned a whole lot was in regards to the All-Star game or the All-Star week this year. What is going on? Holy cow. Alright. Strange. Alright, well, I'm just going to leave that in there because I have no idea what was going on. I wasn't even moving my hand on the trackpad or anything. Weird stuff. But, whatever. The All-Star game is where a lot of this stuff is stemmed back to. All-Star game equals 109. The only back-to-back MVP in the All-Star game other than Westbrook was Bob Pettit, who equals 109. Also, Los Angeles, California equals 109. A really interesting one is Roundheads equals 109. During the English Civil War, it was the Roundheads versus the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers were the supporters of the king and whatnot, the royalists. So interesting, Roundheads equals 109, just like Omaha, Nebraska, and Baxter Arena. So hopefully you're still with me. I'm going to talk more about the Civil War type stuff now. So, I mean, there's just been Civil War coding going on like crazy. I mean, just even the media or just in entertainment, like the recent Batman versus Superman, like the good guy versus the good guy, and Captain America Civil War. They even remade Roots. I see some movie coming out with Matthew McConaughey that's all about, slavery and whatnot. And remember, Lil Wayne also had that music video with the skeletons in the movie theater that came out just before the Batman shooting. I think it was called My Homie Still or something like that. And then he even had the girl that looked like Batgirl or whatever. Then they showed the skeletons in the movie theater. I mean, just think of all the theater shootings that we got last year, or since Obama's been the president. Think about Abraham Lincoln and how he died. He got shot at the movie theater. Anyway, the song by Lil Wayne was even released on 6.5, and it peaked the charts at 38. Prince equals 65, 38. I made a ton of videos a while back about Batman. Donald Trump even said he was Batman at the Iowa State Fair. Batman equals 51. Just so much more. There's just lots of domestic violence, Civil War type theming. I mean, think of just all of the white versus black stuff they're portraying in the media constantly. Oh, if it was a white guy, even the gorilla story, if it was a white gorilla, he would have just got probation and stuff like that, It's just absolutely ridiculous. But if you notice, in Game 4, the Cavaliers finished with 97 points, and then in Game 5, the Warriors finished with 97 points. It's just interesting because if you write out the word Civil War equals 97. I also thought it was kind of interesting if you add up all of the scores here, it totals up to 414. Back-to-back in English Gematria equals 414. 414 also the day that Abraham Lincoln got shot in the movie theater. He died 9 hours and 9 minutes later. And then, of course, it's the 41 and the 14 mirrors. I've talked about how Kobe Bryant is connected to all of this. Even before I knew Gematria, I made videos about Kobe Bryant because there was just some things that didn't make that much sense, or it just really seemed like they were using him as a story and whatnot. Anyway, Kobe equals 41 in Gematria. He tore his Achilles versus the Warriors on April 12th, 2013, which just so happened to be the 152nd anniversary of the American Civil War beginning. He tore his Achilles, then he came back in, and he still shot his free throws, and he made the score 109 to 109. Right? Los Angeles equals 109. He was 34 years old. He got the Lakers their 43rd win. He scored 34 points. He came back 34 weeks later. Couldn't play with Shaq, who wore number 34. It's all connected to the Civil War. Civil War equals 34. Anyway, if you write out, like I said, 79 equals 152, just like Easter Sunday. This year on Easter Sunday, Kobe Bryant started his 1,189th game, matching the chapters in the King James Bible. It was on the 87th day of the year, but it was also the 152nd day of the NBA season. What are the odds of that? Easter Sunday equals 152. The 152nd day of the NBA season falls on that day. Kobe tears his Achilles on the 152nd anniversary of the Civil War. The Lakers even lost on Easter Sunday, 101-88. It made their home record 10-27. The season began on 10-27, which was also Philadelphia's 333rd anniversary. Philadelphia equals 101. Kobe's originally from Philadelphia, where the Fresh Prince is from. I even talked about Wilt Chamberlain. Kobe scored the 81 points in the game and whatnot. Wilt Chamberlain had the 100 points. Wilt Chamberlain and Will Smith, the actor, even went to the same high school. Wilt Chamberlain died in Bel Air, California. That's why Kobe announced his retirement, though, on the 333rd day of the year, because it's all connected to Philadelphia. Before Kobe came back in and tied this game 109-109, it was 107-109. Just interesting, earthquake equals 107, just like King Charles. Philadelphia earthquake in Gematria equals 109, just like Charles Francis Richter. Maybe I'll leave a little note on here. There's a whole bunch of 58 stuff in regards to earthquakes. I've been following an East Coast earthquake. It seems like there's a lot of foreshadowing to an East Coast earthquake. I don't know when or what, but 58 and 85 definitely connected to earthquakes. Even the American Civil War began in Charleston, and the worst East Coast earthquake ever recorded just so happened to be in Charleston. I believe it was on something, the degrees of the place was even 923 or 92.3 or something like that. But the next worst one was 58 years, 5 days later in 1944. The last worst East Coast earthquake on record was a 5.8. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. UNO is also a part of the University of Nebraska Lincoln system, which of course connects to Abraham Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been mentioning all this for a long time too. It goes clear back to the All-Star game when Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins, the Teen Wolves, both were MVPs in the All-Star week or whatever. The movie Teen Wolf has Nebraska Cornhusker stuff in the background. Doesn't take place there. It's not set there. Wasn't filmed there. Doesn't make that much sense to have Nebraska Cornhusker stuff in the background. When he turns into the wolf, there's even the Civil War scene in the play or whatever. Their mascot in the movie was the Beavers, and it was based off the Oregon State Beavers. Nebraska's football coach last year came from Oregon State. I mean, it's just a huge web. It's unbelievable. It even connects to the death of Flip Saunders and Kevin Garnett, the original Teen Wolf. Omaha, though, is even located on 41 degrees north. If you write out Lincoln, Nebraska, it equals 150 and 60. If you write out Abraham Lincoln, it also equals 60. But the big weight equals 123. Just interesting, if you write out the word 60, it equals 97. Civil War equals 97. If you write out 123, it equals 109. If you write out 109, it equals 150. I mean, you see with the little web? I talked about Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks and the UNO Mavericks and whatnot. Dallas Mavericks equals 150. LeBron just wore the Undertaker shirt talking about Klay Thompson, his comment about being a crybaby or whatever. The Undertaker 150. In the previous video, I talked about the reason that James McAdoo got put in the game, and it all tied back into 923 stuff. James Michael McAdoo equals 150. Just interesting too, I typed this in, Omaha ISIS attack. I typed this in a long time ago because Bellevue, Nebraska, which is just south of Omaha, was on the ISIS list or something that was somebody posted on Facebook, but Omaha ISIS attack, 150. And if the series goes 7 games, it'll even fall on what's called Juneteenth, and it's the celebration of the slaves being free in Texas, but this year it will be the 150th anniversary. Anyway, some other things I noticed in this game. The end of the first quarter had a total score of 61. Civil War, 34. With the V exception, it equals 61. And then the big way, 97. So 34, 61, 97. All numbers tied to Civil War. The Warriors called a timeout with 1:31 left just after Curry hit a 3 to give them 61 points. The total score here was 119. King James Bible equals 119. The Cavaliers had 58 points. King James died at the age of 58. If you write out 61, it equals 131, just like the time that it was stopped. Just like championship, but also like Prince Charles. And then they even joked about the home and the away stat guys and blah, blah, blah. Just a stupid little joke. Doesn't make that much sense to even bring it up. But stat guys in Gematria equals 132, which is an interesting number that stems back to the January 18th date when the Warriors defeated the Cavs by 34 points, 34 games after LeBron shot 9 of 23, or LeBron ripped his sleeves. The Warriors scored 132 points in that game. Remember Antonin Scalia, who died on the 44th day of the year with a date numerology of 51 and whatnot? His name also equals 132 and 51. When Andrew Bogut got hurt, it was a total score of 131. The Cavs had 67, Revelation is 67. The Warriors had 64 points. 64th prime is 311. This is a number I mentioned a whole lot. This number is all around the Paris attacks as well. But I mentioned it so many times. Stephen Curry equals 64 as well. But I mean, the 311 also connected to the 222. Amtrak equals 222. Talked about the Anderson Varejao stuff with the 311 and the 113. Which, by the way, 113 is the 30th prime. Steph Curry wears number 30. The halftime score was 61-61. Go figure. Civil War, which also totals 122. Golden State equals 122, yet they lost. And that seems to happen a lot. So a lot of times you see all these connections and you think it's good for the team, but it ends up being not good. But it's still interesting that it would even happen that way, The Warriors even scored 44 points first, and they scored 55 points before the Cavs would even get there. I don't know if the Cavs scored it or not. Yeah, it was even 44-44 at one point. But the date numerology was 55. And if you remember, when the Lakers beat the Warriors the same day that Nancy Reagan died, which is also connected to that 9/19 that I've talked about. But the Warriors lost to the Lakers, and their record was 55-6. Also, the only other team that the Warriors beat by 34 points this year was the Lakers. The first time they played in November, I believe November 24th. They beat them by 34 points. Kobe Bryant even scored the 34th point of the game. 44 just also connected to the Warriors, but I'm not going to go into that. The Civil War began in the year 1861, so go figure Civil War would equal 61. Obama was born in the year 61. If you write out 34, it also equals 61. The next game, Game 6, just so happens to be on 6/16/16, and is also the 168th day of the year. Cleveland Cavaliers equal 168. But I mean, look at that mess. 6/16/16. I sure wouldn't doubt if we see a story in the media about the death of a 16-year-old or a 61-year-old tomorrow. Anyway, in regards to this, though, I remember reading some stuff about how some people think the mark of the beast is 616 and not 666. So anyway, I just searched 616 and not 666 or something like that. The first one I click on brings up a deal about Prince Charles of Wales, and which is just interesting, you know. They talk about his coat of arms and and how it connects to the beasts and Revelation and whatnot. So just kind of interesting, but it also says that his name in ancient Hebrew and English Gematria also equals 666. I even used Google Translate and everything, and I translated it into Hebrew, and I still cannot figure out how they're getting 666. So not something to completely believe and whatnot. I looked all over, couldn't find anywhere that actually explained it perfectly. So just still something worth pointing out that there would even be articles about this and how he supposedly equals 666 and whatnot. Anyway, 616 tomorrow also just so happens to be Pope Francis's third year, third month, and third day as Pope. Remember, the NBA season began on Philadelphia's 333rd year anniversary, where the Fresh Prince is from. The Fresh Prince equals 222. 222 is when the Warriors picked up Anderson Varejao, but it's also 115 days before 616. The reason I mention that is because instead of 666, the 616 comes from the papyrus 115. So just interesting, 115. The Warriors even lost their first game of the season to the Bucks 1 month, 15 days into the season. Then they lost again on 2/19, the 115th day of the season. Curry hurt his knee on the 115th day of 2016. Kevin Love always does terrible in these finals and whatnot. Kevin Love equals 115. Even the Guy Fawkes stuff and the gunpowder plot to kill King James, it was stopped on 11/5, a lot like 115. If you go from 616 to Philadelphia's 334th anniversary, a span of 133 days, just reminds me a lot of Pope Francis. He became the Pope on 13/3. Also, if you write out 306 score and 6, right, 666, it equals 133 and also 313. Both days a lot like May 13th, the day that Pope Francis became the Pope. He even became it in the year 2013. 31313 just seems like a lot like half of 61616. If you write out 616, it equals 87, just like Clinton, just like Queen Elizabeth II. Her name, the Big Y, like I said, 168. Tomorrow will be the 168th day of the year. Cleveland Cavaliers equal 168. Also, I've been talking about all this King Charles III stuff, but I found stuff talking about King Charles might change his name to King George VII if he becomes the king, because of all the negative connotations to the name Charles and whatnot. So just kind of interesting, I typed in George VII in Gematria. It equals 61 and 97, just like Civil War. In regards to 97, too, the 25th prime number is 97. Last night, Steph Curry finished with 25 points, or in Game 5. In Game 4, LeBron finished with 25 points. If he loses in the finals, he'll be 2-5 in the finals. He even shot 9 of 23 for a second time this season on 2-5. And it was 132 days before 616. LeBron, even on the 11-2 date where he shot 9 of 19, the important 2 games here, he broke 25,000 points. Also, in regards to the royalty theme, as I was typing this up, I was just reminded, for whatever the reason, of the Miss Universe pageant where Steve Harvey messed up. I made a video on that talking about how it was almost like a switch in power and whatnot. And I was even talking about Prince Charles. There was a whole bunch of 80 connected to it. King Charles III in Gematria, the small way equals 80. But I was talking about Sandra Bullock being in Miss Congeniality, but she was also Scarlet Overkill in the Minions movie, and that whole movie is about how she has a plot to take over Queen Elizabeth II's crown and become the queen. I looked up Scarlet Overkill equals 65, just like Prince. Also 182, just like Oliver Cromwell, just like back to back. Which is interesting because when the Civil War came to an end, this is the guy who took over power. Sandra Bullock even lives in New Orleans, is 51 years old. Steve Harvey in Gematria equals 51 and 150. The English Civil War came to an end in the year 51. The crown in the movie is the St. Edward's crown, and that was the crown that was made for King Charles II in 1661. That movie even came out in America on July 7th. That's actually supposed to say 10th, July 10th, which is 10/7, King Charles equals 107. In regards to 51 then, Cleveland took their first lead of the game when the score was 26-25. That equals 51. Just kind of funny, I stopped the DVR when it was 2:33 left in the game. That's the 51st prime number. Cleveland equals 51. Cleveland Cavs equals 51. LeBron James equals 51. Quicken Loans equals 51. They hadn't won a sports championship in 51 years, unless you include the Stipe Miocic UFC fighter who won the title or whatever. Anyway, the Warriors then retook the lead when they scored the 53rd point of the game. Interesting, I stopped it at 207 here. That's amazing. You know, Charles equals 207. But the Warriors retook the lead with the score when they scored the 53rd point. 6/13 was also 53 days after the death of Prince. Every time the Warriors are connected to Prince, they lose. So they lost to the Rockets the same day that Prince died. He died at the age of 57. Then they lost to the Blazers in the playoffs on 5-7. That was their only losses to each team. 53 has just been a bad number for the Warriors all season. They lost to the Bucks on a date numerology of 59, and it made them 24-1. The 53rd prime is 241. I mentioned that it was a date numerology of 59 because 53 equals 59 and also 122 like Golden State. But then they lost to the Blazers on their 53rd game of the season. They picked up Anderson Varejao on the 53rd day of the year, which was also 112 days before they lost Game 5 to the Cavs, who scored 112 points. Prince died on the 112th day of the year. The Warriors' home record in the playoffs is now 11-2. June 13th, or also 613, 613 is the 112th prime. I mentioned all of this in the previous video, but I had said that I thought maybe it was going to go the other way around. I thought that Anderson Varejao might have a good game, and the Warriors would finish them off, even without Draymond Green. Draymond Green in Gematria is 71, the 71st prime, 353. Interesting, if it goes to Game 7, the Warriors will either be 12-2 at home or 11-3. So, who knows? You know, Draymond, he last missed a game on 1-1-3, the day that Obama went to Omaha. When the Cavs took over the game in Game 5, the Warriors were stuck on 96 points for almost 6 minutes. The 96 prime, 503, a lot like 53. I know there's other 53 stuff too, like I just wrote what was on the top of my head. I also found out that Draymond Green was even born on 3-4, just like Civil War. The last game that he missed, 1-1-3, was the Warriors' 39th game. If you go from 3-4 to Game 5, the game that he missed, a span of 3 months, 9 days. Also 101 days, like Philadelphia. If you go from 1-1-3 to 3-4, his birthday, is a span of 51 days. 3-4, though, also was the 64th day of the year this year. Draymond played 64 straight games before having to sit out. Also in the game, the score was tied 38 to 38. You know, like Prince equals 38, Death 38, whatnot. Sean Livingston, it says that he made this driving dunk at 9:23 on ESPN, but that's totally not the case. He made it at like 9:26. It even says 9:24 here. So just interesting, they were reported as 9:23. Sean Livingston wears number 34. I've talked about how he's been super significant this year. They even messed his name up at a halftime of one of the games and called him Randy. When the Cavs were up 52 to 50, Curry throws just a horrible pass to Klay Thompson that's whatever, stolen by Kyrie Irving. Just interesting, it's number 2 and number 11, once again, the 1-1-2. It's so blatantly obvious if you go watch it. Curry's like throwing behind the back passes, just absolutely going not even close to the people. And it's not just Curry. You can just tell that there's lots of players that they know what the score has to be. And if they truly don't, then it is some crazy stuff that out of the blue their mind must just say, hey, throw the ball away. You know, I don't understand how it's being done without some type of magic or something else, but it obviously happens. If you watch the games and you know Gematria and you understand the history and the numbers, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, when the score totaled 171 points, which is interesting because English Civil War equals 171, there was 2:39 left in the third, and they were shooting free throws, so the clock actually stopped. You know, like I said, we're in the 239th year of the United States. 923 in England is even written 23/9. Cleveland had 89 points. Religion equals 89. King James equals 89. LeBron James, who is King James, even scored the 89th point for the Cavs. 82 equals 132 at 51. 1982 was also 34 years ago. The 82nd prime is 421, like the day that Prince died, like Queen Elizabeth's birthday. LeBron even scored his 38th point, giving the Cavs 97 points, right? Prince and Civil War. The Golden State Warriors even had 88 points. In my original Prince videos, I talked about the number 88. Purple equals 88. This number's been used around satanic rituals and time travel. That's why Marty McFly has to go 88 miles an hour. Tons of stuff with 88. This was also right after Varejao was 2 of 5 from the free throw line. Just interesting with the 2 and 5 stuff I talked about earlier. The Warriors didn't score for almost 6 minutes. Then Varejao finally went in to the foul line at 101, and the Warriors scored their 97th point. Right? Philadelphia once again. Interesting it was Varejao, though. So, I guess that's the end of the little presentation. I know they're long. Well, like I'm saying, I do have some shorter ones from a while back, but there's just so much information constantly trying to repeat it so people who are new can sort of understand it. You know, it doesn't do any good to not repeat it because then people have no idea what I'm talking about, you know? It's interesting, these same numbers that I talk about come up, and then even the same themes, you know, it's been about the royalty theme, you know, then the Civil War stuff. I really wonder what's in store, you know, like what the purpose of all this is. Are they going to, you know, is Queen Elizabeth going to die? Is the Pope going to die? Obama? Or none of that? Is it something completely different than that or what? You know, I don't know, but all I know is I can see this coding consistently and whatnot, you know? So, whatever, have a good one. You know, one last thing I'm just going to throw in here. I forgot to mention it, but I've also talked about how maybe Prince Charles won't even become the king and whatnot, and it will just go straight to Prince William because after the English Civil War, King Charles II came back, and then King James II became the king. He was the last Catholic king and whatnot, but he was overthrown by William of Orange. So maybe in some weird way it's just going to go straight to Prince William. who, interestingly enough, you know, he's gonna be 34 years old on June 21st, you know, which is even funnier because it's 216, 216. If you write out 6 times 6 times 6, that equals 216. Ton of other stuff, but he'll be 34. We even had the flight 804 that went missing. It went missing, if you include the end date, it went missing 34 days before his 34th birthday. If you write out King Charles III, it equals 134, but anything that equals 134 in simple gematria always equals 804 in English gematria, because you just times it by 6. It was flight 804 and whatnot. Today we get the story about Prince William being on the cover of the gay magazine, right after the Orlando gay club shooting, just before gay marriage, the anniversary of gay marriage and whatnot. And we also got an article about how they found the debris of the missing flight and whatever, flight 804. Wreckage found, right? So, who really knows? Just wanted to point that out really quick. The video is already super long and whatnot. Have a good one.